Hello. It's a sort of warm autumn day in New York, and it's early 60s, 61, 62. I'm out in Stuyvesant Square Park again, and I have a book to talk about. I'll Never Call Him Dad Again by Carolyn Darian. Carolyn Darian is the pen name which she took from her two brothers' names. She has an older brother and a younger brother. She's the middle child in this family. She's 50 something, I think, around this time. And what it has to do with the book starts in, let's see, what's the date? Her first entry is in 2020, on November 1st, 2020, which was about 5 years ago. And that was the day that she found out about her father and what her father had been doing with her mother for many years. It turns out at least 10 years, maybe. So she's giving us a diary entry as all these things unfold in her life, as she finds out about her father. What the whole thing was revealed because her dad, which was, I don't know, 60-something at the time, was arrested for uppies. He was seen in a shopping center somewhere. He was taking upskirt photos of a couple of women, and they saw him and charged him, went to the police, and had they not done that, he would not have been arrested, and all this stuff would not have been revealed, because after he was arrested, they went through all his electronics, and when going through the electronics, they discovered that he was actually drugging her mother and bringing strangers that he met online in a forum. The site was called coco.gg. And so what was happening is that he was connecting with other men on this site, and this was a site for men who like to watch their wives or girlfriends have sex with other people. He was all involved in this web of people who would, exchange photos with each other of their drugged, knocked out women. This is a couple. This is the Cosby case, and there was someone else I was reading about. I can't remember exactly who it was then, but he also had this thing where, it was somebody's memoir about how he'd like to have his wife get drunk and pass out, and then engage with her. There's a certain a fetish in people that men that want to have powerless, passed out, unconscious women to have sex with. It's sort of they're warm, but it's akin to necrophilia in a way. I mean, it's not something that you're going for a response. So it's not. If there's any performance aspects to such sensuality, presenting something to someone else as a performance for their pleasure, You know, you're not going to get that by knocking someone out with a powerful drug and then having sex with them, because they're not going to respond. You know, so then what is the human connection? What do you get from this? What is your you know, who do you please with this other than yourself alone? Well, you're not pleasing yourself alone, because you're sharing these images with all these other men. So, you know, in a way, it's this erotic thing among these men. It's a way of them pleasing each other, with them, you know, having engagements with their comatose partners. And, you know, with all the attributes that this involves, with, you know, the naked bodies and the erections and nudity and all the shooting of things and everything else that goes on. In the, you know, in a certain sense, we look at it as this yucky, yucky engagement with our physicality in this most basic kind of way. So you know, as I said, it's over time that she's revealing all this, and you know, a few months later, I think, you know, soon the police call her in and say, oh, now we have pictures of this particular woman. Is this you? So she looks, and first she says, no, it can't be me. But the policeman said, well, there's a mole on the cheek of the woman. You have one too. And so, you know, it was determined that yes, it was her. And then like a year later, so all this is going on over, you know, so, you know, we hear about the trauma in this family as all these things are going on over a rather slow timeline, over 4 years, I guess, when the case went to trial in 2024, and the book comes out, you know, right as the preface is written, where she's, you know, waiting for the results of what happens to the other men who are on trial for this. So, you know, ultimately, you know, jumping forward, ultimately, 70 men or something were identified, and, you know, so a whole bunch of men were brought in, you know, so it doesn't really just involve this family. You know, this is in South France, in kind of a ruralish area, so it doesn't just involve this family. It involves a whole web of people, and, you know, basically hundreds of people were involved with this this horror show of what went on here. So it comes up later, in a few years later, that or 1 year later, I guess, that they find pictures of actually the wives of her two brothers. So now we have the daughters-in-law of this perpetrator are involved with this as well, because there are pictures of them naked. So they have also been drugged, and something went on with them. So, you know, it's you know, and she does not really know ultimately whether he, you know, whether he did something more with her or just took photos with her and left it at that. So yeah, it's a really pretty interesting book. Now I can kind of read anything in a kind of a dispassionate way. I mean, I don't like a lot of horror, you know, rapey, chasing women around in movies and stuff like that. Mostly because I'm concerned about the actresses, the actors going through and having to portray all this stuff and this ridiculous behavior that we have to see redone, you know, in our dear love of serial killers and all that. Now there's another It series. I mean, what the fuck, you know? So, you know, a scary clown. Oh boy, you know. So yeah, it is a really a very interesting book, and you know, I feel a certain empathy for these people that have been used in this way. You know, it shows that you don't, you know, they had been married for 50 years. These two people. This is all going on in their last decade, and like in their 60s. You know, basically is when this is all going on. These people are a few years younger than me. So, you know, you never really know what's going on with other people like that, and other men particularly. And had he not done the uppies, he might not have ever been discovered. This might not have ever been discovered, and you know, his wife would have OD'd at one point or something, perhaps, from what the drugs, you know, she goes into what the drugs are that, you know, apparently everybody has all these, you know, it's whenever people talk about drugs, we all have these in our medicine cabinet. Well, you know, I don't really have any drugs, you know, so, but all these people have these drugs, you know, there are certain kinds of drugs that you can take to knock people out, so, and some of them are tasteless. You know, and actually he talks about how the how her father had told another of the perpetrator that did this on his wife, told him what the formula was, and you know, so you know, her dad was also involved with these other women, these other sexual acts with these other comatose women, the wives of these other people, and you know, so I say, you know, as I said, this is all about, you know, the real connection here, and the bonding thing is about these men bonding over the abuse of their you know, the loves of her life. I mean, he keeps, you know, he writes from prison, which he's not supposed to, but a couple of things get through about how, you know, she was the love of my life, blah, 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 you know, all this kind of stuff, you know, and was this not true? Well, I guess it could be true, and yet also I've done this other stuff to cause this horrible harm because of my fetishes and my need for pleasure, and my you know, my need to connect with other men in that way, that I would disregard what you know, what's happening with my wife here. So I think that's where I'll leave it. Yeah, I feel you know, some empathy for these people. As I said, you know, it's like I just read these, you know, okay, these are the facts, you know. But you know, when I read stuff like this, it makes me think about myself as a male and the human condition, and how horrible people are. And you know, why am I reading stuff like this? Maybe I'm reading stuff like this because I'm old and I'm on the way out, and this stuff encourages me. It's like, well, you know, there's not really that much good going on with humans anyway, with all this other crimes right below the surface all over the place, whether it's you know, murdering children to get their land in the Middle East, or you know, all this kind of stuff that goes on between people. So that's where I'll leave it. Yeah, so next is Nobody's Girl by Virginia Roberts Giuffre. So I have that from the library now at my apartment. So I'll read that next, and we'll see how that goes. I think that's more of a mixed bag. So anyway, yeah, this is I'll Never Call Her Dad Again. Turning our family trauma of sexual assault and chemical submission into collective fight. She started a group to battle this chemical submission. She said, you know, chemical submission is a big thing. It happens all the time. You know, it happens at bars when, you know, you meet somebody, he spices your drinks and takes you home. but happens within the family apparently, and you know, it's we don't know how widespread something like this is. So anyway, it's all kind of interesting, and that's where I'll leave it. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, eh? Bye.